Africans are just the major problem right now. Africans. Why is it so important for us to always discuss about Black Americans do not have culture? Why? Why is the culture of Black Americans so important? And you see men like this that tag themselves as the heroes because a lot of Africans are now looking up to this kind of people that I'm going to be rolling out their clip. So because they are looking up to this type of people, and this type of people have the rights, the audacity, the effrontery to say this type of thing on a social media, on a platter of gold, saying it without any regret. In fact, even having to bring out some, for me, annoying, useless points that is not even supposed to hold ground. When Africans continue to watch this type of people, at the end of the day, they will now literally start saying the same thing to Black Americans. And this is where the motivation, right? Because it's motivation to them. This is where the motivation of Africans now saying, oh, Black Americans do not have culture. If they have culture, what is their culture? Just because you have one Black American woman sitting there and she cannot really say something that will shut you up doesn't mean they don't have culture. So let's just grow up in 2026. But anyways, let's go out and roll out this clip first. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sonia. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. And credit belongs to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. I really do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. With that being said, let's dive right and watch this video, and I'll be back with commentaries. Black Americans do not have culture.
African Americans in this country are the only groups, they have no culture. It depends on who you meet, where you meet them. 2 value systems in the African American culture. Name 2 taboos in the African American cultural system. Name 2 traditions, by the way, in the African American cultural system. You have no culture. Nancy, you've been here, born here. Why would you be surprised if I say African Americans don't have a culture? What, twerking?
I've seen several videos from this interview this morning with Frank Zanu, and while seemingly educated and has some interesting points of view, it's spewing lots of white supremacist ideas of blackness and colonialism. He particularly hones in on Black Americans and Haitians, and as you can imagine, I was all ears on both sides of this combo. What's worse is the women having the conversation with him didn't have the bandwidth or capacity to speak on these topics. And if there's one thing that really grinds my gears, is people who paint broad strokes and completely leave out the historical nuance and geopolitics that are crucial, especially when discussing anyone in the diaspora's history, culture, language, and current socioeconomic positioning in the modern world post-colonialism. To say that Black Americans have no culture boldly is to admit publicly that you're unqualified to continue your conversation. He is correct that there is no one singular unified Black American culture. That would be similar to you saying all of West Africa has a singular culture, because America is comparable to a continent size-wise. Black American culture is American culture, which is consumed globally and emulated globally, but it's become the dominant standardized culture for so long, you're not able to ascertain which aspects of that culture are Black. Furthermore, the bastardization of that culture that America exports. Prime example. We have to discuss the socialization of anti-Black sentiment throughout the diaspora when it comes to America, and that's seen from educators down to laymen, and this man appears to be no different. Because according to you, twerking is not a valid part of African American culture, even though it comes from your culture and our ancestors. So why is this dance considered traditional and cultural for you, but twerking for us couldn't be a part of African American culture? Black American culture is unique and has developed in America over the last 400 years. Black spirituality and worship in the Black church has been a central and vital institution in Black American life, acting as a hub for community, social justice, and spiritual support. Religion has provided a source of strength and hope in face of a systemic oppression, which is where a lot of our traditions stem from. Black American spirituality, Louisiana voodoo, and hoodoo, which developed from the Middle Passage and thrived during our time here on the plantation, is a direct result of our African origins coupled with our new existence here in America, which is no different than Santeria in Cuba, DR, PR, voodoo in Haiti, Obia in Jamaica, or Candomblé in Brazil. If you're in America, there's a difference between a black funeral, black wedding, black church, black christening, black prom versus white versions of these. These are our tradition. And this is what we've developed here. Same things that you attribute to any other African or Latin American culture, these parts of our culture are just not exported to the world, so you don't think they exist. Soul food, which can be traced back to the culinary practices of enslaved Africans in the American South, blending African traditions with European techniques, inspiration from the natives, and ingredients and cooking methods available during slavery. It's unique to Black Americans, and it varies by region, same as food varies by any region anywhere in the world. Our value systems are family and community. We have collectivistic values placing a strong emphasis on family closeness, community bonding, and solidarity is a core value in most, if not all, Black American communities. Children are often raised to show great respect for their elders, seeking guidance and reverence as they age and as we mature. Art, which is the most exported and consumed and marketed part of our culture. From the Harlem Renaissance to today, Black Americans have made immense contributions to the arts. For example, literature, writers like Langston Hughes define the Harlem Renaissance. Visual art, our dances, our music, which have been consumed globally for the last century. Every popular genre of music we've created, blues, jazz, hip hop, praise and worship, gospel, rock and roll, and country are all Black American culture. Clothing and style are Black American culture, street style, hip hop style. And you say about our language, we have AAVE, we have Gullah Geechee, we have Creole. People speak differently in Texarkana, people speak differently in South Carolina versus the North versus the Midwest. America is this roughly the size of Europe. Again, to say America and Black Americans have no culture is not only lazy, it's playing into the trope that we are the lost Africans, and also lends itself to they don't know where they come from. So many dangerous and misinformed tropes this man puts forward about both groups. And if there's one thing I hate, like I said, is people who make claims and leave out the history and geopolitics that are required to understand the talking points that we are currently discussing. Some aspects of Black Americans feeling like they're oppressed, so they stay oppressed. Maybe we can dive into those concepts and you can provide a well thought out thesis or provide to me your point of view. But if you're doing so from a flawed place to begin with, I can't respect anything you say. Black Americans have no culture. Haitians don't speak a language, and Haitians are failing because Africans never knew or saw governance. Those 3 points are completely wrong.
I remember this dude that said, "Oh, Black Americans don't have culture." He was an Uber driver, and we was getting to yapping. I ain't gonna tell you where he's from, but I said, "Do you know who Michael Jackson is?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Do they know who Michael Jackson is from where you are back home?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "He's a Black American. He had our culture on the highest level. He's the most famous person on earth since Jesus. And if you don't believe in Jesus, he's the most famous."
And to the African man who said Black people don't have no culture, come to the front of the room because you about to get read. Now, this is the problem, and this is the thing. I will never understand when African people come to America and they want to sit and talk down about Black American people. You are a Black person in America now, honey. Do you not know you looked at as the same way as Black Americans are looked at by the masses and the majority? Do you not know that? But obviously they don't. In order for somebody to say that Black Americans don't have culture, they obviously don't have any common sense, in order they have any sort of sense. Because all you have to do is look around and look at Black culture. Black American culture dominates American culture, okay? Let's get into this. First of all, there is nothing that Africans have that Black Americans don't have as far as culture, okay? Africans have dance, Black Americans have dance. Africans have religion, Black Americans have their own way that they practice their religion. Africans have their own food, Black Americans have their own food. Africans have their rituals, Black Americans have their own rituals. Okay, we're not going to get into this whole thing about Black people not having any culture. And where in the world did this come from? I don't understand, because a lot of the Africans that I know don't even fool up with Black American people like that to even know what they do. Okay, so we're going to talk about this. First of all, Black American music. Black American music jazz, blues, soul, R&B, hip hop, country. All of these Black Americans have revolutionized. Rock, all of them they have influenced. All of them they have come and they have conquered. Like, what are you talking about? Okay, what are you talking? Rap, whatever. All of that. Black American. Black American. Let's talk food. Let's talk food. Not only because the first thing you think about is soul food. Okay, first thing you think about soul food, but you don't think about Creole. You don't think about the Carolina foods. You don't think about all of that. Dance. Dance. Look at the dance the African Americans have. Dance. And I'm not just talking about hip hop. I'm talking about jazz. I'm talking about ballet. I'm talking about liturgical. The way African Americans practice their religion. That's different from any other religious practices in America. The way they pray, their churches, the way they come together, the HBCUs, the culture of the HBCUs, the bands, the Battle of the Bands, the Divine Nine, the step shows. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. The cookouts, the barbecues, spoken word, the poetry, the fashions. Let's talk about the fashions. Let's talk about the hairstyles. Let's talk about the cars. Let's talk about the vernacular, the way we talk, the way we speak, the way we interact, our swag. All of that is culture, honey. Like, I don't understand why they want to say that, but I think I do understand why. It's this colonized mindset. It's this mindset that you feel like the majority is better. So you look down on our culture. But just like that over there, the way when you were colonized over there, you look down on your own culture. You look down on your language. So you try to stop speaking it. You look down on the way you act. So you stop acting the way you did. You look down on your religion. So you stop doing your traditional things. Like, that's all what it's rooted in, is colonization. And also too, rooted in wanting to be completely away from what is Black to align what the majority is. That's exactly what it is, because there is no way that you can sit back and say that Black American people don't have culture. Because this country was built around Black American culture. It was built around our blood, our sweat, our tears. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, you know, there's always going to be ignorant people. There's always going to be people who don't sit back and try to acknowledge the greatness that is being Black American, how the culture, like the influence that it has, how much of our culture has been stolen by the masses and projected out like it was an original thought by other groups, when in reality it was our stuff. Every fiber of this country, all of its culture originated from us. So please, sir, have several seats, because you don't know what you're talking about. Have a good day.
Y'all love making videos about somebody taking Black American culture, yet on a weekly basis, our people ain't doing nothing on this land to create cultural transition in real life, just online being triggered. So do you want to talk about Black Wall Street? Do you want to talk about Rosewood? Do you want to talk about Seneca Village? Do you want to talk about the Arkansas Massacre? Do you want to talk about the Atlanta Massacre? Do you want to talk about the Louisiana Massacre? Do you want to talk about the North Carolina Massacre? Or how about this? How about, other than the Amazon, tell me where you will not find rap. Tell me where you will not find Black American culture. Because everywhere from here to Europe to Asia to Africa, you will find Black American culture that is imitated. You know who that came from? Black Americans. Our country, our blues, our rap, our rock is celebrated all over the earth. Now I'm sure you're talking about the degenerate culture that we currently have existing in the black community. That needs a lot of accountability on its part. But don't try to piss in my face and tell me it's raining while saying you know anything about history and not even explaining that European Americans will literally commit genocide in order not to lose power in this land. I said anything like how the Black Panther Party was labeled as a terrorist group, or somehow we still have the KKK running around here with swastika flags. How all the leaders in the black community was magically assassinated by our own government on documentation when they realized black Americans were outpacing them even while in our most oppressive time period. And they realized they cannot just do physical warfare on us because we're not going to stop fighting. So they invested into mental warfare on us. And this is why eliminating the education system for black Americans was extremely important for them. But hey, you know what? I digress. We're not going to talk about none of that.
Because the culture is lost for African Americans. They don't know.
We
the
shouldn't
culture
be attacked.
started here 400 years ago. It came from Africa. So now you got Senegalese culture mixed in. You got Morocco culture mixed in with African American culture. Even just in Louisiana, gumbo, okra, all that came from West Africa. For them to pick up those traditions and cultures. So that's where they're saying you don't really know where the culture is because it's coming from thousands of languages and tribes and countries because we were shipped all over. We didn't ask to, you know what I'm saying? So that's where they're like, necessarily where they're honing in, where it's like you don't have cultures because.
But you shouldn't say that. But we built a culture.
You built a culture.
African Americans, you guys, you do definitely have your own culture. I can definitely say. I would never take that away from.
It's because it's lost.
When you're in someone else's country, it's very important that you learn their history. Or else you're going to end up like the young lady that didn't know Mexicans were half Native American. During slavery, the United States forbade slaves to read and write, fearing that literacy would start a rebellion. Some slave owners allowed religious teachings, which helped with some literacy, which you see in black communities. All we have in our community is churches. African Americans were not even allowed to speak in their native tongue. The history completely washed away, and they were left in breeding camps. So you would have a Mali African breeding with a Congolese African, and then breeding with a Ghanaian, and then breeding with an Egyptian. You never know who was breeding with who to make sure master's breeding camp was full. I digress.
Because I know my culture from Ghana. For an example, my mom, she's American. I don't know what part of Africa she was from. My dad, he's Ghanaian.
American, like.
But at the end of the day,
I don't know. They're American. But you wouldn't say that to a Jamaican.
But they're African American, though.
Would you say a Jamaican don't know what part of Africa he's from?
Jamaicans are Caribbean, so they already have their own like.
Would you say he don't know what part of Africa he's from?
But he know where he comes from. He comes from Jamaica.
Just like a black person know they come from Africa.
So in 1884, word got out that Africa had so many resources. So the Europeans decided to divide Africa. It was called the Berlin Conference. They divided Africa between all these different countries in Europe, and they partnered with the Spaniards. The Spaniards created the slave ship. This slave ship was called Jesus. I kid you not, the slave ship is called Jesus. When y'all be like, thank you, Jesus, y'all talking about the ship. This ship picked up all the Africans and dropped us off at different locations. Whoever you know was a part of that deal. This conversation needs to happen, but it's kind of sad and embarrassing, but it needs to happen.
Where you from?
America.
No, where's your country?
My country is America. I was born in New York, raised in.
Where your parents from?
My parents are from New York.
Americans, they don't know where they're from, you know.
I think American black people are the most lost black people in the world.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you see black people over here. They know where they come from. We all know where we come from.
What are some negative stereotypes y'all heard about black Americans from your parents, from your friends?
You literally said it all.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like my mom would tell me not to marry that.
Yeah.
She says it all the time.
My parents are both from Grenada. They came here in the 80s and 90s. So what he was saying about how they think that black people are lazy does resonate with me because I've heard that a lot.
And I'm West African, Nigerian, because if you remember the movie Sugar Hill, and there's a scene where they're doing the thing with the drug dealer, and the guy said, we can't work with Akata. That's a word that they were calling the American blacks, Akata, the Nigerians. Akata is a word that they use for American blacks. And Wesley Snipes was like, yo, what is this Akata shit you keep calling us? And the guy goes, we don't want to work with cotton pickers. Africans come to America, and there's a lot of my African-American friends say, man, a lot of Africans are really mean towards us. They're really nasty towards us because they feel they're better towards us.
You being a man from an African family, what would your family say about you bringing like an American woman?
My daughter's mom is American. Most African parents, if we're being honest, they would actually prefer you bring home a white person.
I can't categorically say every Nigerian got this talk. But a lot of Nigerians that travel abroad got this talk from their family, where they will sit you down and tell you, you're going there. Don't go and talk to those black Americans. Though. You just go and get pregnant. You get into drugs. You start become gang banging. They give you that talk. That just go to the white community, find a nice place. They just go and be decent. Stay with the white people. They give you that talk. So when you enter America, you already have a perception of African Americans. You judge them.
Well, we don't want them here.
They're your brothers and sisters.
They're not our brothers.
They are.
They were taken away, unfortunately.
The Europeans had one agenda, and that was to conquer and divide. And then the conversation is, where's your black leaders? Like, they were all killed. They were all murdered. It was only 60 years ago where it was either white or colored sections. White or colored. So anybody that fell in that dark diaspora, we considered black. So people getting offended talking about, I'm not black. Like, education is elevation, what Conscious Lee says. But I'm going to leave y'all with Huey P. Newton.
The Black Panthers scared people.
Anytime the black man attempts to change the slave image, he will scare white people. So the Black Panther Party, I thank you. When you said that we scared people, that means that we were creating a positive black image for ourselves.
Carlton, you were an original.
You know what? You guys are right. We don't have culture. Black Americans do not have a culture, and we should be envious of you guys. Because what little girl wouldn't want to be married off at 10 or 12 years old to a 75-year-old man? I mean, that's every little girl's dream, right? I know that that's a normal cultural practice for a lot of places, especially in Africa. And, we should envy that, because I would have loved to have been married off at 10 years old to a 70-year-old man. That would have been, my life would have been amazing right now. The fact that we don't get to experience somebody carving our back out with a spear, or carving markings into our face with a spear, and get to experience that level of severe pain and trauma. Like, the fact that we don't get to experience that because we don't have culture, so we don't get to experience these things. And it's enviable and it's a shame that we can't experience that, or just the fact that we don't, our younger girls, they don't get to experience having their private parts removed and being sewn up like they're a Frankenstein experiment. The fact that I didn't get to experience that, I never will. It's just I would have loved to have had such a traumatic experience, but unfortunately, because I don't have a culture, I'll never get to have that. Everybody around the world envies these cultures, including us, because everybody wants to live through that. Everybody wants to be like that. Everybody admires that. And the fact that we don't have it is truly, truly sad. So I agree with you.
And since Black Americans don't have a culture, stop listening to rap, trap music, stop listening to drill music, stop listening to R&B, stop listening to pop, country music, jazz, anything that we have dipped our hands into. I don't care if it's a white woman or an Asian woman that's now singing it. Please don't listen to it, period. Since we don't have a culture, stop talking in AAVE. Stop saying words like y'all and finna and no cap. Stop. Black Americans don't have a culture. Stop attending HBCUs. I see y'all all up in Howard, all up in Spelman, and so on and so forth, with that same mentality of, oh, Black Americans don't have a culture.
I was born and raised for half my life in the Bay Area, California. And then for the other part of my life, I lived in Las Vegas. For a lot of my formative years, I was in Las Vegas. But in those foundational years, I was in the Bay Area. We have so many people, and we can easily identify that white people are coming in and taking our culture. But I think as Black Americans, we're getting to that point right now where we're starting to identify, wait a minute, it's the whole diaspora. It's like actually everybody, all of you, everybody is trying to take our culture, not just white in America. Like even in our own diaspora, even in our own family, even in our own house, y'all trying to steal from us. And not to say, like, give credit where it's credit is due, but, like, it's almost like that all lives matter shit, right? It's like saying all lives matter because Jamaicans or Africans, y'all are saying, well, oh, y'all need to put some respect because y'all got it from us. I could have swore we had a whole African movement where, like, we as Black Americans, we acknowledge that Africa is the mother of our culture, right? The mother of our culture. But just because it is the mother does not mean that it is the culture. Like, I am not my mother. I'm a version, but I am not my mother, right? So you guys are saying, like, you guys need to respect that, blah, 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 blah. But everybody else in the diaspora gets respect except Black Americans. Because Jamaicans, Haitians, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Black Americans, all of us that look like this, your culture gets respected, right? You respect Dominican food. You respect Puerto Rican food. You respect Haitian. You respect Jamaicans. But when it comes to Black Americans, it goes lacking because now it's Black Americans. It belongs to everyone, right? It's not the respect that Black Americans deserve because we actually created and we started this. It's not the respect, and we don't have the economic power behind it. But saying that we need to respect Africa or other cultures in this context of conversation is like saying all lives matter. Because realistically, all of the other cultures are receiving the respect that they would deserve. And they're getting the recognition for, oh, this is a part of that culture. But when it comes to Black Americans, it's either American culture or Black culture. And when we're talking about Black is everybody from the diaspora. But when we're specifically talking about Black Americans, it belongs to everybody, right? Like Africans keep their shit for them, right? And then the Haitians and Jamaicans, they quit. I'm not Black, I'm Dominican, I'm Puerto Rican. Because Black, in your mind, is Black Americans. But everybody participates in Black American culture. But y'all be quick to let us know when it's time to set those boundaries with your own culture.
African Americans in this country are the only groups. They have no culture. It depends on who you meet, where you meet them.
But currently there's not an African American culture?
No.
Yes, there is.
What is it? Name two value systems in the African American culture.
Value system?
Peace and blessings. This is your brother Asar Hotep. And I have been trying to hold off from joining this particular conversation on whether African Americans have culture or not. And this seems to be one of the foundational arguments for the so-called diaspora wars. And sometimes I forget that, you know, I'm in a privileged space because I took Africana studies and African American studies, and you just assume that others have taken these courses and understand the nature of our history and where to find source material to back up certain arguments in a thing. And that just is not the case. And even continental Africans who seem to be intelligent are very ignorant of history, of culture, and all that and what it means. So we want to address this today. So I want to raise the name of one of our premier psychologists and one of the founders of the discipline of Black psychology, and that is Dr. Wade Nobles. And he is an elder and an experimental social psychologist who received his PhD from Stanford University. He is also the founder and executive director of the Institute for the Advancement or the Advanced Study of Black Family Life and Culture, and is a full tenure professor in the Department of Black Studies, the School of Ethnic Studies at the San Francisco State University. And anyone who knows about Black scholars and Africana studies would be familiar with him and his colleagues. And so while there's more people we can concentrate on, I just want to kind of keep it narrow for the sake of simplicity, but more so because he has organized the labeling and the framework for understanding African American culture. And so often in these conversations, people throw around the word culture, but they never define it. So we're going to stick with Dr. Nobles for a moment and use his definition of culture, because you'll find it defined differently depending on who you talk to, but they all have this common thread that runs through all the definitions. But again, for the sake of simplicity and consistency, we're going to stick with Dr. Nobles for a minute. And so Dr. Nobles defines culture as a process that represents the vast structure of behaviors, ideals, attitudes, values, habits, beliefs, customs, language, rituals, ceremonies, and practices peculiar to a particular group of people, and that provides them with a general design for living and patterns for interpreting reality. And so understanding that definition of culture, Dr. Nobles created, along with a slew of other cultural theorists, sociologists, psychologists who are engaged in the study of African and African American studies. He has synthesized what it means to have an African, what it means when we say African American culture, and he organized it into 8 precepts and then 9 cultural themes. And so we're going to get into that in just a moment. And so one of the sources in which you can find this particular list that I'm going to name is the Utilizing Culture in the Achievement of Educational Excellence for African American Adults, from Cultural Precepts to Reoccurring Themes. So in this video, I'm going to list the 8 precepts and list the 9 reoccurring themes of African American culture. And then in subsequent videos, I'm going to go into the details with examples about each one of those things. So I'm going to double them up on each of these videos. So I'm going to go with defining one precept, and then I'm going to match it with one reoccurring theme. And then the last one, since there's 9, I'm going to double up on the reoccurring themes so that we can get through it, so it won't be a super long list of videos. So in this video, I'm only going to list them, and then we'll follow up with the details on what all of that means. And so from this point on, no one can argue that African Americans do not have a culture. They just don't know how to articulate what it is, right? And so in this particular essay, he reinforces the notion that although African Americans differ in many levels, there is a cultural substratum that unites African Americans on a fundamental level. And it is these practices and perspectives that, when composited together, create the African American worldview. And so African American culture, as Dr. Noble states, is in fact the composite of African cultural retentions and American social inventions. African Americans, of course, are very complex. And so there's a ton of literature on the retentions of general African cultures that were maintained here throughout the history of enslavement to the present. And so we won't go into them in this video, but that requires a separate conversation, because especially with these FBA and ADOS folks that claim that we don't have any African retentions, or we've been here, we're not Africans, we're not associated with Africans. And this underscores the importance of having an Africana Studies program. And so when we're talking about the cultural precepts, It is defined as the intrinsic principle, rule, or law which serves to impose a standard of action or conduct consistent with the culture. And so the 8 precepts are defined as, or labeled as, consubstantiality, interdependence, egalitarianism, collectivism, transformation, cooperation, humanness, and synergism. These precepts ground this cultural orientation that informs or expresses themselves as the next reoccurring themes, which in turn shape and influence behaviors, attitudes, and beliefs. And so we just gave you the 8 precepts, and now here are the 9 reoccurring themes, and these together make African American culture. So spirituality, resilience, humanism, communalism, orality and verbal expressiveness, personal style and uniqueness, realness, emotional vitality, and musicality and rhythm. And so, again, these 8 precepts, consubstantiality, interdependence, egalitarianism, collectivism, transformation, cooperation, humanness, synergism, and these 9 reoccurring themes, spirituality, resilience, humanism, communalism, orality and verbal expressiveness, personal style and uniqueness, realness, emotional vitality, musicality, and rhythm, is the matrix that defines African American culture. So in the subsequent videos, we are going to get into the details of what each one of these precepts and reoccurring themes mean. So make sure that you share this video, make sure you write down the details of what was said, and then I will see you in the next video. Hotep, peace.
Black Americans have one of the most richest and the most influential culture in the world. The culture developed through centuries of histories, resilience, creativity, spirituality, and community building. And here are some few examples. 1. Music traditions. Black Americans created or shaped many global music genres like blues, jazz, gospel music, hip hop, rhythms and blues, soul music, and funk. These genres shape globally pop culture and influence music worldwide. So if you're saying Black Americans do not have culture, please stop listening to their music. Listen to your country music that have culture. 2. Food and culinary tradition, where Black Americans' cooking traditions are known as soul food. Examples include fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread, macaronis and cheese, sweet potato pie, and black eyed peas. This food came from African, Southern and survivor tradition during slavery. The third one, which is hair and beauty, where distinct hairstyles and beauty traditions like afro, cornrows, dreadlocks, box braid, hair is tied to identity, pride, and resilience. And you know the sweetest and the funniest part of all of this? Every single one of them screaming, shouting, condemning Black Americans do not have history, enjoyed all of this. The fourth one is language and communication, where Black Americans develop unique speech pattern like African American vernacular language, unique slangs, rhymes, storytelling styles, and oral traditions. The fifth one is dance and movement, where with dance style created or popularized by Black Americans, break dance, kilumping, and steppings. This dance influenced global entertainment. We have fashion and style, where Black American fashion influenced global trends like streetwear, sneakers culture, urban fashion, gold chain, grills, and hip hop fashion. The seventh one, where we have spiritual and religion tradition, where Black American religious life include Black churches, powerful gospel worship, community prayers and tradition, church historical support, civil rights, and social justice. And we have the eighth one, where storytelling and oral traditions, where Black American culture preserved history through spoken words, poetry, church testimonies, family telling. Then we have social movements where Black Americans created major movements for justice, civil rights movements, Black empowerment movements, cultural pride movements. The eighth one, we have creative and art, where Black American culture include literature, poetry, film, photography, spoken words. Many global artists movements came from Black traditions. Now, the concrete reasons why Black American have culture is one, shared history. Centuries of shared experience from slavery to modern civil rights create a common cultural identity. We have the unique traditions where music, food, language, and hairstyle that originates within the community. We have the third one, which is the community institution where Black churches, neighborhood, historical Black colleges, and school groups preserved culture. We have the fourth one, where culture creativity, where Black American create entire new music and artistic form. We have the oral history, where stories, proverbs, and traditions pass through generations. We have the global influence, where Black American culture shaped global music, fashion, sports, and entertainment. We have resilience and survival, where culture developed as a way to survive oppression and maintain identity. We have cultural innovation, where many global trends in music, dance, language start in Black community. We have shared value, where community, solidarity, family network, and spirituality and creativity pops in. We have cultural continuity, where African tradition blends with Black Americans' experience to create something unique. Black American culture is powerful because it combines African heritage, American history, creativity, resilience, and global influence. So if you're a Black American person, next time and you hear any single person opening their God's mouth to tell you, oh, Black Americans do not have culture, just do not stress yourself. Let them say whatsoever they want to say, because like I said, these kind of people, I know that these videos that I actually pull out is not recent, but I brought it out for a reason, because these kind of people are the people that a lot of African countries will see as heroes and then take it into the heart and be like, okay, if this man can literally say that Black Americans do not have culture, let's be honest, do Black Americans really have culture? But as far as I'm concerned, Black Americans have culture, Black Americans do not have culture, Black Americans have language, they do not have language, they have tradition, they do not have tradition. Honestly, I can tell you they are better than so many African countries out there. They're better than so many Africans out there, because at the end of the day, they will tell you that Black Americans are lazy, Black Americans do not want to work, Black Americans do not want to do this, Black Americans do not want to do that. You are in their country enjoying what they actually paved way for you to actually enjoy. So it's quite sad. I just hope that a lot of Africans can just forget about this issue of Black American culture, Black American language, Black American everything, and let's move on to the main thing that is actually happening. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section. Credits belong to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you, liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. And thank you so much for staying stick and hook with me to the end of this video. And yes, guys, with that being said, with no further ado, I do like I always say in my videos, I'm going to be seen by, and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys. I love you guys. Mwah.